Good morning, San Mateo County, and happy Cesar Chavez Day. Today is Thursday, March 31st, and you are watching Sustainability Matters. Good morning and welcome. All right. Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Camille Lang. I'm a resource conservation specialist with San Mateo County's Office of Sustainability. Again, good morning. You're watching Sustainability Matters on this Thursday, March 31st, which is also Cesar Chavez Day. So happy Cesar Chavez Day. This live stream event is also offered in Spanish for you. I'm going to put some information of how to access the Spanish interpretation services on the screen now. Spanish interpretation services are available when you call the phone number 1-877-568-4106. And the access code is 877-394-869. This information will always be available to you at the bottom of the screen for your reference as well. Let us know in San Mateo County where you're tuning in from. We'd love to welcome you into the space this morning. As you do that, let me introduce myself and what we'll be discussing today. So good morning. Again, you're watching Sustainability Matters. My name is Camille Lang. I am a resource conservation specialist with San Mateo County. You are watching our monthly installment of Sustainability Matters, where we bring local specialists in the field to discuss crucial sustainability and climate action topics and solutions in the context of San Mateo County. In today's Sustainability Matters, we'll be diving deeper into the county's Community Climate Action Plan, or the plan that you'll hear us refer to all throughout this event. We'll be talking about what this plan is, why it matters, and what resources are available for San Mateo County residents to provide feedback and have your thoughts shared and included into this countywide plan for a sustainable future. My name is Camille Lang. I'm a resource conservation specialist with the county's Office of Sustainability. In my role, I work towards amplifying youth voices in climate action through our Youth Climate Ambassador and Youth Exploring Sea Level Rise science programs. When I'm not out in the field with students, you'll find me here supporting connections with you all and our programs on our social media channels. If you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SustainSMC to get updates on our programs and the opportunities for you to share your thoughts and ideas with us directly in the Office of Sustainability. So I don't know about you, but all this time at home has given me more of an opportunity to notice what's around me. I notice the comings and goings of all the cute dogs in my neighborhood. I notice when the squirrels get into a tiff that starts causing a crowd in the backyard. But I've also been able to notice more of how much I've learned about my community. As we make plans for the future and pivot on those plans at least once a day, it seems like, being at home has made me understand that we are in this together as a community. I've also valued the little community that is my neighborhood, and this connection is making me so excited to explore plans for the future with my community in mind. It has been a really interesting realm of sustainability to plug into, thinking about what we can do as a community. And I'm thrilled to be joined by some local experts in this space because let me tell you, I have questions. Before I go any further, I'm curious to know what you all think of when you hear the word or the phrase climate action. So please type in the chat to share with us what those words mean to you. In the Office of Sustainability, when we are talking about climate action, we spend extra focus and attention on sustainability. We think about sustainability as building a sustainable community that fulfills the needs of the present and the future. And to achieve this mission, we engage directly with communities to understand their needs and to ensure that we deliver programs that are centered with broad input and equity. We also work across county departments to help them to integrate sustainability into their work, and we work extensively with our 20 partner cities. Our programs are designed to bring solutions today, but we're also solving for tomorrow, trying to really look ahead here. We have programs that help the county both fight and prepare for climate change, which is what we'll be talking a little bit more about today. We also have programs that help ensure clean energy, water, and air, and that conserve resources for future generations through waste reduction. And we also work to create livable communities that have affordable housing near transit that are both bikeable and walkable. Today, we're joined by local experts to explore and understand the topics of climate action and localizing that in San Mateo County's Community Climate Action Plan, or the plan, as you'll hear it referred to today. To learn more about any of the programs I just mentioned, please feel free to visit our website or stick around here at the live stream. Our website is smcsustainability.org. So with that, I've mentioned these local experts. Let's get one in the space. So I'm joined first by my colleague, Ivana Andrade from the county's Office of Sustainability. I'll welcome her in now. Good morning, Ivana. Welcome.
Good morning, Camille.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. This is my second ever live, so feeling good.
Yes, yeah, me too. Well, Ivana, you're the one that's been working on this community climate action plan. So I wanted to hear from you a little bit more about what this is, what are the goals, and what's kind of in the plan that helps us get to those goals.
I'm really happy to be here speaking to folks about this plan. As Camille mentioned, my name is Ivana Andrade, and I've been working in the Office of Sustainability for the past 6 years or so, and a good chunk of that I've been working on the Climate Action Plan. So I'm really excited to talk about it, not just because I've been working so hard on it, but because it's at a critical juncture right now. It's open for its final round of public feedback, public engagement. So we'll talk about some details about that here in a minute. So we're trying to get as much public feedback as we can on the draft before it hopefully goes for formal adoption later this summer. So what is a climate action plan? So climate action plans are local jurisdictions like counties, cities, ways of planning out how they're going to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. The state of California requires that all local jurisdictions reduce greenhouse gases, carbon, methane emissions by a certain amount by a certain date. And this plan, our Community Climate Action Plan, applies to unincorporated San Mateo County only. But it has the potential to lead the way for other jurisdictions in the county and also region-wide as well. And so our goals in this plan are actually to exceed the state target. The state target is 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. And our plan is 45% below 1990 levels. It doesn't sound like a big difference, but it's a lot of carbon emissions reduction. And if you check out the executive summary or the full plan, you can see how much we're actually talking about. So let's see. How does
sorry, Ivana, I have a quick question about that actually. So you said something about the 1990 levels and comparing that to our reductions. Would you mind just explaining that a little bit more for me?
Sure. So we use 1990 levels, at least at the state level, as a benchmark. And this gets a little bit in the weeds, but at the many local jurisdictions actually don't have 1990 data on their greenhouse gas emissions. So we use 2005 data and we do what's called backcasting to 1990. So we kind of project backwards how much transportation was happening, what was the population like. And so we establish our baseline that way. So 1990 is the year that we kind of measure our progress against.
Got it. So yeah, the term benchmark really made sense to me there. It was like, oh yes, that's what we're measuring, comparing it to for the future. That makes sense. So what kind of measures, what's outlined in the plan right now to help us get to that goal of 45% reduction?
Yeah, so the plan is oriented around a few main sectors. One, building energy, and this is focusing on how we can make our buildings more energy efficient, but also gradually transition away from methane gas in our new and existing buildings. San Mateo County already has adopted what's called a REACH code, which means we don't allow new buildings to be built with methane gas. So much of our focus is going to be on existing building stock and improving the energy efficiency of those buildings and gradually electrifying them, adding solar, that kind of thing, battery backup. The second sector is transportation. So San Mateo County is not a transit agency. We don't have a whole lot of power or control over how people get around. But there are a lot of ways that we can partner with transit agencies and other governmental jurisdictions to reduce the amount of single occupancy vehicles that drive around. So basically anytime I drive up 101 by myself to San Francisco, let's say, that's a very carbon intensive activity. And so part of our efforts is improving access to public transportation and also improving access to electric vehicle, either ownership or leasing. And a critical part of that is building charging infrastructure. So people need places to charge their EVs, and especially during the day. So that's transportation. The next one is solid waste reduction, which my colleague Chris will be talking about in a minute. The focus is sending less trash of all kinds to the landfill, especially organic trash, think kitchen scraps and yard waste. And then the fourth sector is a working lands sector, and that's focus, and that's looking at how the county can support and enable climate beneficial agriculture. So doing things like applying compost, planting hedgerows, cover crops, and that whole working lands component has been developed in partnership with the San Mateo Resource Conservation District. So they've been a huge aspect of developing that component. And we're not going to have a chance to get into that, but we are going to have a whole live session dedicated next month to that. So if you're interested in carbon sequestration and farming and agriculture in San Mateo County, please join us on April 14th. So yeah, with that, I know we have two guests, other guests here. I know they're both going to be able to elaborate on what some of these strategies, some of these actions look like in the climate action plan, because it's a lot and it seems a bit esoteric or difficult maybe to comprehend. So I think both Carlos and Chris are going to be able to make that a little bit more concrete for us.
Yes, that's great. So I'm seeing a lot of people in the comments actually add their definitions of climate action, and you so greatly kind of categorized them for us and reflected that in what's in the plan as well. A lot of people were saying more bikeable communities, and that fits into the transportation component. A lot of people were saying we need to have more home composting, and that fits into the solid waste component. So we're seeing already so much alignment and so much community thought on climate action here. So as Ivana mentioned, there's other people in this space that would like to talk to us about what climate action they provide and how that's reflected in the climate action plan. So as Ivana mentioned, I would like to welcome Carlos Moreno from Peninsula Clean Energy into our space. Carlos, welcome.
Hey, Camille.
Hey. All right. And then Chris Slofter, who's one of our colleagues at the Office of Sustainability, is also coming into this space. Chris, good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Awesome. So I'd like to turn it over to Carlos first. You're the one non-Office of Sustainability person in our space this morning. Could you tell us a little bit more about Peninsula Clean Energy and introduce yourself, the work you do there?
Sure. So I am the marketing specialist at Peninsula Clean Energy. And basically what Peninsula Clean Energy does, so let's step back for a second. You know the electricity that you get at your home. There's really two main components to getting that electricity to you. One is the generation of the electricity, signing the contracts, all of that. And two is delivering the electricity. So the wires, maintaining all of that to actually get that electricity to you. So we do that first part of generating the electricity, signing contracts for all of San Mateo County and now the city of Los Banos. And PG&E, they're the ones who deliver that electricity. So PG&E used to do both of those things, generating and delivering. Now Peninsula Clean Energy does the generating part since around 2016. So that's essentially who we are in our day-to-day operations. But beyond that, we're a public agency, and one of our main mission is to get San Mateo County and the city of Los Banos to reduce greenhouse gases. So we have programs that really align closely with the climate action plan. And the two sectors I'm sure we'll be talking about today are transportation and building electrification.
Got it. Man, it sounds so cool, Carlos. This is so great to have you in the space this morning. And Peninsula Clean Energy is doing such valuable work. And you can hear that it's a process, right? It takes planning and then implementing to kind of get there. So that's why we're talking about the Community Climate Action Plan and inviting more partners into this space to talk about this, to show you all at home what it takes to plan for a more sustainable future and reach our goals of greenhouse gas reduction. Cool. Well, thank you. Chris, I want to hear more about what you do in the Office of Sustainability and how that helps us meet the goals that Ivana was mentioning in the Community Climate Action Plan. So tell us more.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. My name is Chris Slafter. I am a sustainability specialist with the county's Office of Sustainability. And what I do is I work on programs designed to reduce the solid waste generated in the county. Ivana, like you mentioned, that solid waste is a component of our climate action plan and a significant source of the solid waste generated in our communities that ends up either in landfill or in our streets and our watershed is single-use plastic pollution. I know myself that if I go surfing at Pacifica, or if I'm walking in downtown, like Redwood City, something I'm going to see are things like utensils and cup lids and other waste associated with food packaging. And we've heard from you, the community, that you're also concerned about single-use plastic pollution, in our streets and our watershed, and the amount that goes to our to our landfills. So we took action and we adopted a disposable food serviceware ordinance on February 25th, 2020. So what I'm going to be talking to you about later today is some of the components of that ordinance and how it's going to be addressing the single-use plastic pollution in our community and the waste that we generate, and how you can help us take action.
That's so great. I definitely was resonating with you, thinking about how connected I am to my community now, and how much I enjoy our weekly, or I walk more than once a week, I promise. But when I'm walking around my neighborhood, I definitely see that stuff in the on the curbs and stuff. I notice it so much more, and it makes me upset. So it's great to hear that there's action being taken from a more government standpoint, where I can only pick up so much trash in my neighborhood. That's really cool. Thanks, Chris. Well, great. So I'd like to hear kind of from all of you. This is our panel for today. So everyone feel free to just jump in on the discussion as it develops. But where do you see climate action in your work, in your organization, kind of happening within the climate action plan? And where do those two things intersect? Carlos, where do you see that intersection in the plan for Peninsula Clean Energy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all of our programs are really about individuals taking some kind of climate action. The climate action plan really informs, what direction we're taking, because ultimately we're not working in a vacuum, and that's really not the most effective way of achieving our goals. So the climate action plan really lays out, what direction to go towards. So in terms of some of the programs we offer, we offer both individual actions, whether it's around transportation. We'll offer used EV discounts up to $6,000 to help people switch to an EV. And we even have e-bike programs for income qualifying residents to give them up to $1,000 off. For people who even are curious about EVs, we'll give them $200 to just rent an EV from anywhere. So yeah, those are kind of the ways that we're giving individuals the ability to take climate action based off this larger plan.
That's so great. I love the phrase, and I feel like I've heard it a lot over the past 2 years, but that we can't work in a vacuum, right? And Carlos, you were just mentioning that the plan helps inform kind of where PCE goes with these initiatives and how we encourage individual behavior change. But a really cool part of the climate action plan is that it's open for public commentary. So it's a two-way street. Ivana, I was wondering if you could talk more about the public commentary and how to kind of keep us out of working in this vacuum as we pursue climate action more aggressively with the plan.
Sure. Yeah. So as I mentioned, and as Camille just mentioned, the plan is open for its final round of public comment right now. And, I think these government documents, sometimes people think, where do these come from? They seem so dry, well, I hope this one doesn't seem so dry. There are aspects of it that do, but in this case, people have put a lot of effort and thought into this policy document. And that's not to say that it's perfect, but we have taken steps to, especially through COVID, to get public feedback on the plan. And we go through all of that public feedback and we modify the measures, add components in the narrative to address comments that people make. So we go through all of it and we address all of it in the plan. And so to the point of working in a vacuum, I think, or trying to not work in a vacuum, rather, we really try to do our best at making the plan contextual and responsive to public interests and needs, even if some of those interests may or may not be the most impactful in terms of emission reduction. Because I think if we only focus on emission reduction, we'll miss a big opportunity for improving other facets of our quality of life in San Mateo County. So we also want people to have access to green space, shaded neighborhoods, healthy forms of transportation, healthy indoor air quality, and a thriving, functioning food system. So I guess that's my main point, is just we need your feedback to inform and make the plan responsive and reflect what community values are. So that's what the open house is intended to do. And you can go to the measures and make direct comment on them, or you can just email us. You can read the whole plan. It's 100-something pages. So I challenge you to download it and look at it. And read. That's my response to that one.
That's lovely. Thank you, Ivana. I appreciate it so much. And the challenge to download the document and engage with the measures is really exciting. So interestingly enough, I think maybe last year, I was sitting in a virtual workshop as a note taker in a community climate action plan public commentary session. And I was listening in on waste reduction conversations. So Chris, I wanted to hear a little bit more about the work that you're doing and how that intersects with the climate action plan, how that has kind of been a back and forth where we're taking notes from the public, you're listening to the public, and that's informing what we do to take on more aggressive climate action with solid waste. Could you tell us more about the work you do?
Absolutely. So the climate action plan identifies solid waste and waste generated by restaurants and cafes and other like producers of like food that's, prepared for and consumed by like the public, as a significant source of single-use plastic, and a great opportunity for us to create some programs, some regulations in order to like reduce that. So what the ordinance does, kind of very generally speaking, is it bans the use, it prohibits the use of single-use plastics when an entity like a grocer or a restaurant or a cafe is serving prepared food that's been prepared on site to the public. And that includes plant-based plastics like PLA plastic or compostable plastic. And it requires that natural fiber items be used instead. And these items can be then taken to a compost facility and broken down into like usable compost rather than landfilled. And they also and the idea is if something could be better managed, we're gonna see it like less in our streets and in our watershed, and we're gonna see it more in like these facilities where it can be used. And we don't just want to make a requirement and expect like the public or anybody else to just adhere to it. We're really like concerned about the welfare both of our residents and also like our small business community and then like the larger business community as a whole. So we've created like these programs to help food facilities like cafes and restaurants and like grocers come into compliance with the ordinance by offering like lots and lots of technical and financial assistance. We have great tips and tricks available on our website for the public to be able to like look at, so they can see what you can do at home to reduce this kind of waste, and also like what you can do to like help like your favorite restaurant come into compliance as well. And so it's all a very like friendly way for us to like engage with producers of potential waste and to find ways to make reductions. And not only does our ordinance, because our ordinance only has jurisdiction over unincorporated county, but it's a model ordinance. So we're really looking to have other jurisdictions within the county like model or ordinance. So the things that come out of the climate action plan also like resonate like throughout the county. So if these programs sound like something that you really like, and you have like positive things to say about, or maybe you have some concerns, there may be some things that you want us to take into consideration. You can, as Ivana mentioned, like you can look at our climate action plan. You can look at the measures that things like the ordinance and our foodware campaign and our promotion of the use of like reusable foodware items rather than single-use items like come out of, and provide comment on that. So that we can adjust accordingly. And not only that, but you can like look at all the other like beautiful and fun to read measures on our climate action plan, and let us know what you think.
That's great. Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you so much, Chris. I was just going to mention to the audience, if you are in the realm of public commentary and finding that excitement in the final round of public commentary for the plan, I would love to hear from you all. What excites you about what we've shared already? What would you like to see more of? And what would you like more information on? Let us know in the comments, and we'd love to get back to you either live or after this stream has come to a conclusion. So everyone, I'd love to hear kind of what do you think is like the first step someone should do if they want to take more climate action at home or in their community as it relates to you and your work. And if it's in the plan already, that's great too. I'll start with Carlos. What would you recommend someone start, or where someone should start if they want to make changes at home or in their community?
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a really good question, because it can seem overwhelming, to know where to start or what resources to look at. So, kind of depending on where you're at, I would certainly recommend, first of all, visiting our website and seeing the programs that we offer. Because, something as simple as renting an EV, you can rent it from anywhere and we'll give you $200 if you're just curious about what it's like to live with one, to see what it's like to charge one, how charging infrastructure has grown recently in San Mateo County. So that's certainly one place to start. But if you are a homeowner, we also have some programs. People don't really think about their water heater when they think about climate emissions and the impact that has. So I would certainly recommend don't waiting until your water heater breaks for you to look at water heater rebates, because it really is kind of a long and complicated process to get a clean all-electric heat pump water heater installed. So starting to plan as soon as possible would also be great. So yeah, I would say those are kind of the EV sound is much more exciting and much more visible. But in terms of an impact you can have, really just looking at your water heater can have a pretty big impact on that. And one more thing, also just doing some basic education on like induction cooktops and sort of, that's something that's simple. You don't have to swap out your entire gas range. There are single-use burners that you can get that are induction, and slowly switching away and figuring out what it's like to just cooking within to use an induction cooktop, and those can be as like ranging from anywhere to $50 to $100 or so. So that's something else that you can do pretty easily as well.
That sounds great. Cool. Thank you. And then as Carlos was sharing, I put a little, there's the link to the Peninsula Clean Energy website on the screen as well. So definitely check out Peninsula Clean Energy if anything that Carlos just mentioned sounds interesting to you or you'd like to learn more. Chris, I'd love to hear kind of where do you think people should start taking more action if they want to take more action with the waste they create at home or in their community? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I have 3 recommendations off the top of my head that require no prior knowledge or thought. So this is just something you can do when you're doing something as fun as like eating out. I would suggest that when you order like takeout, that you proactively request that the food the restaurant not give you any food or accessories except the ones you need. So if you already know you don't need like forks or napkins or straws or something, let them know ahead of time, like I'm not going to need anything like that, because it's so easy to end up with something you don't need, right?
Yeah. My local Chipotle knows not to give me a bag. I tell them every time I go in, I don't need it, and it's like a thing now with us. I love that. That's great, yeah, Chris. Sorry, keep going.
And then if you do need something, request specifically what you need and take only what you need. And those are all great ways to over time in the aggregate, reduce the amount of like single-use like plastic or just items in general that we are consuming and using. Another one is that if you're going to be taking leftovers, or if you have a good relationship with like the rest you go to, like Camille does, you can bring in your own reusables and then have them like package your order in that, and that way you're not using any single-use items like whatsoever. And then also, if there's a restaurant you enjoy, but they're not using the foodware you want to see them use, talk to them. Restaurant owners care deeply about their communities and the opinions of like their consumers. And so I think that you would find like a rate a year in with someone that you go to. There's also more recommendations I have, but those can all be found on our website. We also have like downloadable letters that you can send to like your favorite restaurant, as well as some other like tips on ways to reduce like single-use waste. And also, if you happen to be a food facility like owner in our audience here, we have tons of resources for you on our website, so you can go to that website as well for those.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to put the website on the screen right now for us. So it's smcsustainability.org/food-ware. And that's where you can look at more recommendations and explore what resources are available to you as a resident and a business in San Mateo County. Thanks so much, Chris. This is great. Ivana, what would you recommend as like taking climate action in your at your home or in your neighborhood, in your community?
Yeah, sure. Well, first I wanted to acknowledge Daniel mentioned in the chat something about green infrastructure. And Daniel, if you get a chance, go over to the open house, and policy T-2 is encouraging urban density and the revision of parking standards, et cetera, et cetera. But head over to T-2.3. That one is all about traffic calming, complete streets, and green infrastructure. So you'll get the full version of that in the full plan. And we do talk about green infrastructure. The county also has a green infrastructure plan. I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but my colleague John Allen would know it. If you want to know more about that whole plan, is a plan dedicated to improving our watersheds and green infrastructure. So I can help you find that too. But the question is about what I would recommend for folks at home thinking about climate change and climate action. The first thing that comes to mind is really getting familiar with where your resources come from. Where does your water come from? Where does the methane gas come from? Where does your electricity come from? Educate yourself on how much of all of those things you use. How does that compare to your neighbor? Just get familiar with what your current footprint, as we say, is. And look at things related to what you eat, how you travel, what you do for fun, and how those things contribute to your carbon emissions. There are websites for that. I know that the EPA has a website for calculating your footprint. But I also think that we can't lose sight of the fact that we're not going to address climate change with individual action only. We need individual action. That's a critical part of changing culture through time and reducing resource use. But that is not the only thing. The other thing that I encourage people to do is to look at what your local government is doing, and look at what your state representatives are doing, and hold your elected officials accountable. Hold your local governments accountable, your local government agencies accountable for making progress on climate change, if you think that carbon emissions reduction is important. And so make your write letters, call, make comment. This plan is open for your comment right now. That's one way if you're a San Mateo resident or community member. So find ways to bring about more widespread structural sort of changes in our society and our community as well. So everything that Chris and Carlos just said, and also taking a look at your own practices and see how you can improve there, but also not losing sight of the bigger sort of picture and the bigger task at hand.
That sounds great, Ivana. Thank you so much. I think that just like trying to figure out where things are coming from in my home. Like I'm excited to hop off this call and go figure out if there's methane gas in my house and where it's coming from now. But and then also the component of holding people accountable, right? Having these conversations with each other, knowing what you know, so that way you can speak out on it and hold others accountable to what you value as well, is really important in this space. I appreciate that. Thank you all so much for joining us today, Ivana, Carlos, and Chris. This has been a wonderful discussion. I wanted to turn it over for final thoughts. I'll start with Chris and then Carlos. Chris, what are your final thoughts before we say goodbye for today?
Oh, I was very moved by what Ivana was saying about participating like in your local government, holding like your local government accountable. So I kind of want to speak on that. The counties, at least when it comes to solid waste reduction and our programs and ordinances, and when it comes to single-use plastic pollution, individual action can only go so far, right? It really is a problem that requires solutions from the top down and from the bottom up, right? And when it comes to local governments, like what we can do is we can pass policies, we can create programs to help community members reduce that kind of waste. But we need your support, we need your input. And a lot of these decisions are made at local city council levels. So if you live in a jurisdiction and you want to see a certain type of requirement like in your ordinance, or you want to see an ordinance at all, or you have thoughts otherwise like on the ordinance, it's really beneficial for us as civil servants if you show up to like city council meetings and you let us know what you think, or you email us and contact us otherwise. And I think that is just a great way to get involved like in local politics or local like policies and a great way to support something that's going to help make the change that we need.
That's great. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And thank you again for joining us today. Carlos, I'd love to turn it over to you next to talk about your final thoughts before we say goodbye.
Sure. So I totally agree with what Ivana and Chris said about individual actions and the limitations of them, and certainly it's important, like Ivana said, to look at your footprint and have a clear understanding of where your personal emissions come from. But larger than that, there are opportunities to get involved at a larger level. One is commenting on this climate action plan. Two, in terms of Peninsula Clean Energy, we have a Citizens Advisory Committee, which is a committee of just people in the public who help guide and shape some of our direction even more directly. And that the application for that is actually closing today. So if you're on this and you're just so jazzed about climate action, then please sign up for our Citizens Advisory Committee. We invite people from all walks of life. And then third, we mentioned this briefly at the top, but around REACH codes, which are really building codes, and helping building codes, quote unquote, reach even more ambitious climate targets so that buildings are as fully electric as possible. And each city has their own jurisdiction. They decide how far they can go in terms of REACH codes. So look into your local city, because that's going to have a much larger impact than what any individual can do to make sure that our building emissions are as low as possible. And then the last thing I'll just plug here is just being really cognizant that we're making these changes in an equitable way. So not only making sure that homes can install heat pump water heaters that can afford them, but looking into different ways for everyone, no matter what income level or what community they live in, to participate in climate actions. So for us, we have those UCV program that the maximum level of them are for people who are below a certain income, and we've had home upgrade programs in the past for people who are also below a certain income level. And because installing all these things sound nice if you have a fully up-to-date roof and you have everything else you already need. So just getting people to the point where they can make those climate adjustments. We're trying to fill in the gap and fund people to fix their roof or whatever they need. So if you are below a certain income level, we still want everyone to participate, finding a way to get involved. So that's another important part of this. So, no matter where you are, you can take some kind of a climate action.
That's tremendous, Carlos. Thank you so much for amplifying that in this space today and making sure that residents know about resources available to them regardless of their income bracket. That's really wonderful. Ivana, I wanted to turn it over to you. Any final thoughts you want to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
Sure. Yeah, I have a few. One is just gratefulness for my colleagues here in the Office of Sustainability. You all have made getting this plan to this point possible. So thank you so much. The other thing that's on my mind is when I think about the last I guess few years of working on this plan. I think about COVID and racial justice movements, and I think about, for me, climate change and climate action is less about the amount of carbon that's in the atmosphere, and is more about this opportunity to create the kind of society that we want to live in and we want our children to live in. It's about us. We talk about technology and we talk about carbon and we talk about all these technical words, but really, for me, climate change and climate action is about creating a better place for us and the plants and animals that we share the world with. So that's one big reason why I'm so passionate about this plan, and I so badly want to see as many of its measures and actions take form. So we need public support and we need buy-in to make that happen. So I'll leave it there, and thank you everyone for tuning in and for your interest and passion in the topic.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I'm gonna need a second cup of coffee to let that one really simmer in, Ivana. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure to get to take up space and hear from each of you how your work is intersecting to be informed by this climate action plan and the public commentary that is now open and available to you all as viewers watching this space. Carlos, Ivana, and Chris, thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye for now and just wrap up the session, but thank you all again. Great. So with that, thank you everyone for tuning in this morning. You were just watching Sustainability Matters. Our March installment was all about the Community Climate Action Plan put on by San Mateo County. If you live, work, or play in San Mateo County, we want to hear from you. You can review the draft Community Climate Action Plan and leave your comments by visiting our website, which is smcsustainability.org/CCAP, that's Community Climate Action Plan as an acronym, _open house. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back with a new installment of Sustainability Matters at a special time on April 14th at 6 p.m. In the meantime, please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at SustainSMC. And you can find more information about the County Office of Sustainability and the work that we do by visiting our website, which is smcsustainability.org. Thank you again, and we'll see you next month. I'm Camille Lang, and this has been Sustainability Matters.